Welcome to Beyond the Cave podcast. I'm your host, AB, and today we're talking about the end of the road from dominion to reconciliation. Fellas, forgiveness is tough, right? It's tough sometimes. Right? It is tough. I know it's tough for me. I know it's tough for most men, but we got to talk about it because you have to get to healing. You have to get to healing. The healing comes through forgiveness a lot of times. And so we're going to cover a myriad of different topics, but I do want to start this one here with JP. Let's talk about what's the hardest thing you ever had to forgive? Or maybe the toughest person you had to forgive. You know, sometimes it may be a person.
One of the hardest things, and I can talk about it because I don't care. One thing about me, I'm gonna be transparent. When I was going through one of the most difficult and challenging seasons of my life, and 23 years of nothing but impeccable work history, accolades out of the wazoo, and after 23 years, and you know I'm not well, you fired me. And the people around me that knew what was going on didn't even have the decency to say, you know what, this is brewing, this is something you need to look out for. So forgiving somebody at that level of betrayal, because it's one thing when you play with people's livelihood and people's money, that's something that you don't play around with. But I had to realize that people are going to people, and I had to learn the art of forgiveness and realize that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for me. And I had to realize that maybe my next blessing could be contingent upon how I handle that situation with them. Because who am I not to forgive somebody and give somebody grace when God gives me grace and forgives me on a daily
Good
basis?
stuff. That's good stuff, right? Nick, as a pastor,
Mm-hmm.
church hurt, that can be big sometimes. And I'm sure you've experienced it at some level. So how do you forgive when it's another Christian? Or it's someone that may be up under your mentorship? Talk about forgiveness through church hurt.
I think one of the things we have to do is really marry our theology and our anthropology. And you realize that God being theos is perfect and people being anthropological or not. And so we treat the church like it's a utopia, but it's not. I normally don't like to use the phrase the church is a hospital. I understand it, but if we stay at being a hospital there, you subconsciously never think you get to the point where you can help somebody else.
I want us to know and understand something, is that man makes no decisions. God uses man to do the things that he wants his work to be done. And so when people do things, you can't put them outside of the layer of not being a human being, whether it's family, church, organization, one of your frat brothers, your closest friend, your buddy, your sister, your brother, they people, right? And God does what he wants to anybody he pleases. He uses people, right? And sometimes we get that confused with that hurt me so bad because it came from my brother. It hurt me so bad because it came from my sister or my close friend. You don't know what God is doing in your life when he removes people from your life too.
It's true.
You think it's all bad, but in all actuality, that's somebody, and I hate to say this, but it's the truth. Sometimes family, you don't need to deal with them on a holistic level because they are people and they're gonna err, and they're not sometimes they're not people that you need to be around on a consistent basis. I'm making my point. My father left my mother when I was 3. During COVID, I got my notion, I'm gonna call this man and I'm gonna go off on him. It's my father. My name is Jesse Cooper Hicks Jr. I'm a junior. My father, right? But my mother, and I love this about my mother never said anything negative about my father. And I think this happens a lot of times that what family would do, build up a person in you that's not really who that person is because they got hurt by that individual, right? So it got to my mind because we had so much time, to sit down. I was reading, I was thinking, and my father had made a couple of attempts to come into my life, but I was so hurt at the fact that he wasn't there. I never asked him why he wasn't there,
Mm.
right? Because we all born with cracks. All of us are broken people. But then I found out that my grandfather did the same thing to him. Elliot Hicks did the same thing to Jesse Hicks Sr. And so it became a cycle. So I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna cut the cycle off. I called him. I said, hey, look, man, whatever happened between you and and my mother, that's between y'all. I forgive you. I love you for being my father, but I don't know how to love you as a son. But as a man, I can still love you, right? And I said this to him. I said, at the end of the day, you not being there taught me how to be a better father than my kids.
There you go.
So sometimes the pain of what people will do, even in your family, is lead you in the right direction.
That's good stuff, Jesse. That's good stuff. In that same vein, Julio, Jesse talked about forgiveness and changing the narrative. Can you forgive someone that's not sorry? That's not.
Absolutely. Again, I think it all becomes who you are. I mean, once we talked about being men and evolving, and I think everybody on the stage is probably, I've known them definitely a quarter century, and I've seen the evolution. I think all of us are at least, and we've learned. I think when you're younger, you don't, but it's not always about you anymore. So I think yes, because I walk away from situations where a person think I'm taking an L all the time. And to me, me walking away is a win.
Cause you just want with peace.
I just want peace. So absolutely, I just want peace. So if you can have a whole celebration and do everything like I won, like you won, champ.
Right.
I just want peace.
That's good stuff. And I know this age that we're at, like you said, we just want peace, And so we learn that that's not our fight. Steve, in education, I mean, it takes a lot, right? To forgive someone that's not sorry. And I know because I'm an educator myself. And so we move through different stages, and JP mentioned being fired. But when you've elevated, someone that will give you the opportunity to go to the next level, how do you forgive that person? Because it may seem like they hinder your career.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I think it all comes down to self. You can't, just because people don't move you in a certain direction, does not take away who you are. And a lot of times when we talk about forgiving, you have to look at self first. But one of the biggest things is don't speak and affirm what others are saying about you who don't have the same faith that you have. See, I have a certain level of faith. I know who's in charge. Just because somebody else may say something that's not in alignment to my faith walk and my faith belief, I can't speak what they speak. I can't affirm what they affirm. I have to go back in and speak greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I can't speak what they say. I have to speak what my faith says. I have to speak what my walk says. I have to declare and decree things over my life. So no matter what anybody puts in front of me, no matter what anybody does, no matter what the stepping stone is, I'm still looking forward to where I'm going. And I don't get distracted by those things on the side of me. I keep looking forward. I keep looking straight ahead. And I know that he's leading me where I need to go.
Well, we'll change this up a bit.
Okay.
What about when it's yourself? When you forgive yourself? How do you forgive yourself?
That is a great question. So forgiving yourself, I had to learn that I think I mentioned this earlier about my divorce. I had to forgive myself for what I may have done to cause whatever happened in my life. Because people forget that, hey, you are 50% to blame. It is not just someone else's fault.
Right.
You were there, you saw it happen. And I don't want to get too crazy if you think about Adam and Eve. Hey, it ain't just Eve that caused that to happen. You were there. So I had to forgive myself after my divorce and realize that The way I felt about everything, the way I felt about how I felt the victim. Because that's the first thing you do. I'm the victim. You did this to me. Well, what was it about me, or what was it about how I handled the situation that could have been better? Or what is it about how the situation was handled that I didn't look to say forgiving this person early enough to kind of give them, hey, I understand you're upset, we're mad, we're different. Why did I have the knowledge at that time to say, let's separate for a little bit, to come back when cooler heads prevail so we can actually be where we need to be and have a conversation? I'd learned to forgive myself in the fact that I didn't do those things, because those things led to me being frustrated, that led to me being hurt, that led to me thinking that I was less than. And when I forgave myself, that's when it changed from being less than to realizing that, hey, I can make mistakes too, like everybody else. But when I forgive myself, as we talked about here about, evolving, you evolve with that. I mean, just hearing these men talk about it, what they went through. Iron sharpens iron. I just learned something to listen to them. So now I've catapulted myself now to the next obstacle that may come in my life as a man. And as we all talked about earlier, we might be old enough to be whatever, but guess what? We're still evolving as men. So I had to forgive myself, and learning to forgive yourself means understand that you will make a mistake, but through that mistake, you become stronger. Through that insecurity, you become stronger. Through that weakness, you become stronger. It's all about becoming better and allowing yourself to say, hey, I'm accountable for what I did in this. So now I can then be better for the next person and better for myself.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Still, I forgave myself.
Hey, we talking about from boys to men, right? So as you grow, you're supposed to mature in all these different things. But this question here, does forgiveness require reconciliation? Jesse talked about how he went to his father. He called his father. So you may forgive a person, but do you have to reconcile? Do you have to personally let them know? Or do you just forgive them in your heart? And you can continue to treat them as such, as God would have you to treat them, but do you have to reconcile?
I think that comes down to the level of the hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes down to the level of the hurt and how long.
Mm-hmm.
So when I called my father, I was 40, oh my God, I was almost 50 when I called him. Like, you talking about a young kid who went through his life, had a male figure in his life, had great coaches that helped him out. But at the end of the day, every young man wants to know who his father is, right? And so the fact that I knew he was living, and the fact that I knew he was still there, and all of his family, I know my buds, I know, I don't know him. And when I say I don't know him, I'm literally telling you I was angry at somebody I didn't know. That's dangerous. Because that holds hatred in your heart for people, especially somebody you don't know. So my level of hurt as a young man had been through so many different cycles. I had to say something to him. I couldn't just say, okay, I forgive you, Jesse. I had to tell Jesse I forgave him. Because had I not done that, I'd have still held that same hatred in my heart because it had been so long. And he said to me, and he didn't say much on the phone. He wept a little bit. And he said, man, I know you hate me. I said, stop. I said, I did. But I've learned that hating you hurts me. And that's a part of the forgiveness that we got to have. You can't hate somebody else and say you love yourself. That's a lie. You're a liar. How can you say you love God who you ain't never seen, but you hate your brother every day, that you see every day, right? So in order for me to relieve myself, I had to also relieve him, because I'm telling you, I have not talked to him since that day. But I know he was, because he wept. He wept and cried. And it relieved him. So that level is something I had to reconcile. I had to say it to him. Because he didn't answer the phone, I was going to get in the car and drive to Upper Marlboro and Maryland and tell him to his face.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Because that older generation, like you all mentioned in the first segment, they're more active. They don't say a lot. I know my father, he was 79 this year. He don't say much. I know he loves me, but they don't say much. They show you through action. Same question, JP. I think about, the conversations we've shared, and does it require reconciliation?
It depends on the level of reconciliation we're talking about. Aretha Franklin had a song back in the 90s, I'm willing to forgive you, but I cannot forget. And so you have to have, if at all possible, It's okay to reconcile and have that conversation where you can have both parties hash out whatever's going on and everybody will say how they feel. However, you don't have to reconcile, reconvene, or reconnect with them after that if you choose not to. You did your job by going to them and letting them know that, hey, you hurt me, that I felt a certain way. You explained to me why you did what you did, and it's up to you and God to see whether or not you reconvene, reconnect with that person. So it just depends on who it is and who it happened to and who it is that actually hurt you. Because it's okay to say, you know what, I forgive you and move in peace. Without, a lot of times when you in these relationships, and a lot of people want, I got to have closure. Sometimes them ghosting you is that closure. And you have to be willing to take your loss and move on. In peace. And go forth in peace.
Boy, I'm serious about that peace, ain't it?
Hey, the older you get, it matters. Peace matters.
Yeah, it matters. Julio, as a business owner, restoring trust. You may have an employee that violated, you have an employee that.
You think about one right now.
Right now. How do you restore trust in an employee that he or she, they may have gift, talents, and abilities,
I probably should have said,
They watch you.
but how do you restore trust?
let me give you a true story.
Don't forget the mic.
True story. We're gonna talk about it. Employee, watched him grow up, black guy. He works for me in my real estate portfolio. Probably worked for me for 6 months. In 6 months' time, I bailed his daughter out of jail. Helped him get a car. Helped him in a housing situation. Good guy. Pretty fairly decent worker. And there was a text thread, hey, who bought this on the Lowe's account? And I watched it, and I just sent the eye emoji. And I always tell them, man, you gotta watch these ladies who work for me, because man, they watch stuff closer to me. End of the day, they done went to Lowe's, took a picture of this person doing it. But it really didn't make a lot of sense with you. So I called him to the office with the photos. And the thing was, well, I think the cashier running it up wrong. And that's where Grace come in. I still ain't fired. I told him, I said, man, you put me in a bad situation, because I'm not firing you because you were from, I think you have some redeemable qualities, but they looking at me like I'm a damn fool. Where you gonna take it from me? And we'll see. Facts. Facts. That's facts.
Really about this grace thing, ain't you? Boy, you really live it.
Uh-huh.
You live that grace. I didn't know shit.
Let me tell y'all something. This is growth later than this. This is the evolution. This is the evolution.
Evolution.
Oh my God, man. How many of y'all would have fired him?
Because, but I thought about it, right? But I put some controls in place, which probably maybe I should have had some controls.
That's what Jess is saying.
So I put some control. From he does have some redeemable qualities. He's probably a good person. If I give up on him at this point, it's over. Right? Mm-hmm. Literally, it's over. I mean, he ain't no young man. It's over. I know his financial situation because I've had to help him 3 times. He can't put his own, couldn't get his kid out of jail. I mean, do I give up? Maybe. Does it change my life either way? Absolutely. Right? I mean, does it change my life? Right? It's just so.
Grace and peace.
Grace and peace.
And a teachable moment, right?
And a teachable moment.
You put some controls in place,
Right.
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, and then you get a young man a second chance.
Right.
Not young man.
All right, he's not a young man, but it's a like, look, man, hey, this is a situation I'm telling you. Listen, these ladies are looking at me like, why did you, I'm not walking you out of this building.
Yeah.
Facts. This is a factual conversation.
Wow.
And real quick,
Go ahead, Jeff.
I've been dealing with, and I know in a smaller sense with young people,
Mhm.
players, students. You have to ask God whether or not that person needs to be around you or not. This is so important.
Good, Jesse.
And this is what I do. I get up every day and I say, Lord, remove anybody that don't need to be around me, my family, my organization, my team. And you can't get mad when he do it. So before you make a decision, realize that person don't belong to you, he belong to God. So you ask God what he should do with that child. Oh, with that person. Because you don't know, there might be a turnaround in there. Because that's what you're saying. You say, I see some redeemable value in him. So y'all, if you understand scripture, don't redeem me, you with me. Redemption don't belong to you. And neither does that person that you're trying to exit.
Wow.
That person belongs to the Creator. And you ought to give them back to the Creator when you don't know what it is that they're doing. That's even with your children. Give them back to him and let God show you, because what you'll do sometimes, you'll put your hands on something God has told you not to touch. That's for him to do that.
That's true.
So if you do that, that's going to really help the decision-making process. And I know it's hard because emotions and feelings get involved in things like that. But it has to be bigger than I think Julio made a great point. I'm gonna shut up. He said, is that gonna keep me from living and doing what I need to do? Absolutely not. So when you make those decisions, realize that God is a part of it.
I'm just trying to figure out who over the stage.
Say some growth that's taking place.
I love it though. But that's what we should
Boys and men, right?
But did you hear it though? He brought up the thing that I heard when I was a kid. He just said it in a more, I guess, better sense. I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. But he said I get back to the Creator. That's what I just heard.
You know, I just want to shift that a bit though, and come across, to Steve, Nick, and Toy, because betrayal also happens in relationships. Toy talked about being divorced, and so since we talking boys and men, we got some young audience members watching, and so young men oftentimes go through relationship issues, and like you said, it's 50-50, right? How do you restore trust back in women, and how they have to look back at us as well?
Yeah, that's a nice journey I have to take, I'll be honest, to restore that trust back into women. You go through a phase, and I'm talking about myself here. Once you've gone through a situation where your ego's been broken and you are no longer thinking that you are man enough for women, well, you revert back to the most lowest thing ever. And that's what they call a phase of just trying to see if you can just, be that man again and grow to be this person. And one thing that I realized in these different phases that when I got married, I didn't seek God in my marriage to make sure it was right. When I got out my marriage, I didn't seek God in my divorce to make sure I'm right. And when I was out in the streets, I didn't seek God to make sure I'm right. I had to restore that trust with God before I restore that trust to anybody else. And that's actually how it started with me, is actually restoring that trust in God. And then, of course, understanding that I am God's child and that this is, whether or not this person hurt me or not, that's God's other child. And as much as I might want to, as you said so eloquently, send it back to the Creator, I can't do that. I gotta have that grace like Julio and that patience and think. Well, don't pray for patience, but that grace like Julio not to do that. So that's where it came from me, is restoring that trust in God, allowing me to restore that trust in other people, because we all are God's children.
That's good stuff. I was listening to you all earlier. We talked about the young men now, or the environment that we're in now. And Toy, you just mentioned something cool as we talk about grace, we all been talking about, the covering of God. And we started this new phase of where we're more outspoken, we're taking more accountability, we're taking more action, right? And this is what I love about this Boys to Men segment, because we were not afforded that opportunity. Because our parents came through a different pipeline, right? Grandparents. And so we were not afforded that opportunity. And so I just want to take a moment to say that to young men here and those that are listening, that you have a generation now of men that are talking about the things that we were not afforded.
That's good, AB. That's good.
We were not afforded that. You know, I still have my father now, and he's a great man, taught me how to be a man. But I made some mistakes in life, and even prior, you know, that led in my marriage, that if maybe I hadn't been exposed or been taught, or like Tor mentioned, if I hadn't been shown that it needs to start with the foundation of God, then those hiccups, those bumps in the road may not have happened. May not have happened. And Steve, I don't know who's been married to one was you or Jesse, but I just want you to talk about, you know, maturity and growth in a marriage as a man, from a young man to where you are now.
Okay.
It's
So my wife and I have been married for 27 years.
Amazing.
She was my high school sweetheart. And we went to the prom. And let me say this. A lot of our young people think, ain't no such thing as no boyfriend, no girlfriend. Let's shut that down, okay? I can't find that nowhere in the scripture, all right? I don't care what Bible, in any frame, there's no such thing as no boyfriend or girlfriend. You're a friend of mine. And that's where the relationship has to start. We put a boy and girl on it, but it's a friendship,
right.
right? So I tell most of my players all the time, I said, man, you ain't in love, you in lust. That's 90% of your problem, which I understand. I was 16, I got it. But as you grow and understand what a woman is and how important she is, and I tell them all the time, I say, hey man, you treat that girl like you want somebody to treat your daughter. And then the whole conversation changes. The way they look at the young woman and what they do. Now, me and my wife been married 27 years. And I'm gonna tell you straight up right now, I have not been the best version of Jesse Hicks 27 years. I done wrong, I done been wrong. But one thing I've always known and understood is that I married one time. I've actually been in love with just one woman. Now, I've probably looked at other women and dated other women and all this kind of stuff, but I ain't never been in love but with two women, my mama and my wife. And so in that, there's nothing that will come in my eye that will destroy. Even when I did wrong, let me tell you the best thing you can do as a husband or someone that's in a real relationship, man, learn to say you're sorry. That's the easiest rebound you could ever get. Admit you're wrong. Say I did wrong and say, Lord, please, baby, just forgive me. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. And if you try to run around with that what you think dominion is, because none of y'all really know what it is, it's well, the scripture says it's power and authority. But that don't mean, they say your woman walks next to you, not behind you, and not in front of you. She's a soul meet, not a mate. Anybody can mate. Anybody can do that. But can we meet? The most important thing you can do every day is wake up. Even say when you're mad, you're upset, you're pissed off, all of it. Say, baby, I don't understand. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Because what that does is that opens up reconciliation. And you ain't never been through nothing till you got to reconcile in your own house.
Say that.
And that's real.
That's good stuff, Jesse. And that brings me to our next question, Dominique. Why do men struggle with forgiveness?
I mean, that is one word, it's pride.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm trying to keep my answer short, but to elaborate real quick, just pride. Like, and sometimes you have to put that mirror up and realize, number one, you're not God's gift to everything. Your breath stink in the morning like everybody else breath stink. You don't bathe for 3 days, you don't, like, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is we have faults. So it's just pride. We we have a built-in ego, we're warriors. And so you have to learn as Jesse to take ownership, right? That's in romantic relationships, right? But let me do this real quick. So if I'm going like the relationship, like Julio just said, all of those people said, well, that's a little different with a woman. So in the relationship, like Julio, like, but I'm really helping you, it don't affect me, right? Not romantically, but I choose to be vulnerable. And there's a place I done gave my heart up.
Agreed.
There's a place, first of all, he gonna pride and ego. Do you know who I am? No, for real, like, do you realize what's going on? Do you realize it's 4 to 1 out here? You realize, like this, all this is, and I'm not saying this is right. For the Christian man, you have your mind to be renewed to come through all that. You do realize, like, I get it. I'm the birthday. I'm the birthday night, right? But then you have to rethink that, and now you have to think like, I had to think like now. No, back again, you have to have that grace and have that peace. No one's perfect. Let me see the level of code you don't broke. Because I also got to be real with myself. Because I got to be real enough to know if I'm going to keep bringing it up, I don't. Because I care about you, or you're a good friend of me. I don't want to keep bringing this up. So let's just kiss and say goodbye. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
All right. If I still like love you, but I know if I really feel like I can't trust you again with everything, there's no need. And I can be wrong. And I'm gonna own that. I'm gonna own that. I tell people now, y'all don't heard my story. I tell people like, I'm not finna do anything serious with anybody. They gonna miss a good woman. I may, but just like when I was in the street and I recognize the rules of the game in the street, I take ownership of that right now. I understand these year, 2 years, however many years it take, I may miss some good people. Right? But people who I convert, that cool, might go to lunch with this and that, but I have to own that. So I'm own it the same way. Like you heard me, and I gotta take ownership. I may be wrong. I don't harbor no ill will, but I'm never gonna trust you again. At that level, if you don't answer the phone, my mind or ears gonna think what you're doing. We gotta be real with yourself.
So the story I told you when you got single again is true, right? Peace and loneliness.
Yeah.
Right? That's it, right? You
Right.
gotta, it's part of it. Right?
Yeah, oh yeah, you just, it's good people. You just sometimes sit at the house and be like, okay.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And that, y'all, I don't know if y'all heard it. He said, you ain't gonna mess with God, I got for you. I don't go too far off of this. I agree with that, but that's at the same time, like, you have to work through this stuff on your own because I realize too, I don't wanna mess with nobody else's life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you get, you know what I'm saying?
But we have to realize, and it's good that you say that. We have to realize what season we're in our lives.
That's self-aware.
Right,
Adam, where are you?
right, right.
And a lot of times we're not self-aware. So that goes to the forgiveness thing. It ain't that I want to be mean and hurtful, because I agree with everything everybody said. Like, no forgiveness is to free you. Or free me. But I got to realize where I'm at. If I know at 51, I really like you. But if I know if you don't answer their phone, I mean, you got to be real.
Yeah.
Like that, we just want to even admit that. You know what I'm saying? I tell you, Bob Marley got a good quote. The prophet. No woman.
No cry.
No cry. Now I gotta answer. Now I gotta answer comedy too. I'm just saying.
We're coming to the last 10 minutes of this segment. On Beyond the Cave podcast, we're talking about reconciliation and forgiveness. Again, it's boys to men, but I want to ask this last question, gentlemen. This is for everyone. This is good to hear. I'm pulling this out of stock right here, JP. Each one of us are from different geographies. The Bible says it's hard for a prophet to be accepted in his own land. when you go back home, now you did what you were told to do. Now, I think Toy mentioned, like, one of you all mentioned this, Dominic, go to school, work 30 years, but when you go and be successful, like Julio, when you go back home, but you don't get that same, you don't get that welcoming feeling.
When you stay at home,
Took
your
it to your house?
your address.
No, not your address,
Back to your home.
back to your hometown,
Oh.
your hometown.
My people
How,
love.
let's see, Julio, we're gonna start with Julio. How do you deal with that, and how do you?
Can we say address too?
It's a gift and a curse. Success is always a gift and a curse. Just because some people just don't understand, but I can go back to Fort Valley and go probably, as Dominic said, to the hood, to the school, or two different things. Recognize different. Some people they'll say, man, he does way more than he should have, and some people who will say he ain't done enough. But again, you just try to do the best you can, and that's all you can do.
JP?
For me, I've been blessed to where the biggest problem that I may have when I go to Detroit or Gary is that people still envision that same JP from 25, 30 years back. And, it's funny how some of the people, they were like, dude, they let you work in law enforcement? Like, did they really do a thorough background check on you, bro? Like, do they know who you are? So I think that's the biggest problem that I've run across. People expecting you to be that same person that I was at 25, 26, 27, 28 years old. Because I'm still able to go on the block, show my face is still good, and all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, I think people find it difficult to see the transition that I made into this man. And
Yes.
Never let someone else's depiction of you become your reality. So I go back home, I don't care how you perceive me, I want to be Jesse. I'm gonna come speak to you, talk to you. I make it a point to go to places that I haven't been. Go visit my friends, their parents, my high school. I do all of that, and people gonna have a perception of you anyway. Right. Oh man, you went over there, you did this. Hey, okay, cool. I'm gonna still be Jesse. Right. I'm gonna speak to you, hug your neck. I'm gonna do all those things. Now, the way you see me, that's on you and God. I understand you. Right. Because your perception of me is not my reality. So I'm not gonna let that determine who I am. So I gotta do that everywhere I go. Even when I go home, I'm the same way.
Well, you have to listen. I think for me, man, I'm kind of like Julio. I think in some regard, I'm the people's child, and I think in some regard, people want me to do more, and I think in some regard, I feel like Nehemiah. It's a burden for my city, particularly my side of town, and sometimes I have to deal with the fact I can only do what I can do. I don't think I'm doing enough. And some people tell me, you're gonna rest with all you can do. So it's complex for me. I want to do more because when I look at making, in particular he's making, that's why we started the East Side Live movement, me and Steve. But I still think about what's the economic demographic. We don't have a sit-down place to eat over here. Yeah, people know me, but you know what I'm saying? Like people know me, they call my name. And what that means, they call my name. Like, if people still trying to figure out what they're gonna eat at night. You know what I'm saying? It's still, added. It's still, you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The complexity of I can be the people's child, but I also carry the burden is I don't know if I done done enough. I'm not happy with it just because my name. I don't care because I went through leadership jobs, leadership make. That does nothing for me. If the graduation schools on if I only have 100 kids, if I know that one kid with a bed at night, what does all that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Steve?
Talking about going back home, when I think about it, I've lived now and making double the time that I was stayed in Augusta. I've been
Yeah,
making now for over 30 years. And I was in Augusta until I left to go to Albany State. And you know, you talk about going back home. People back home, a lot of people. A lot of people when we first started would never believe that I'm doing what I'm doing right now. A lot of people cannot fathom it. But as with anything, 60% of the people are gone home. They may need to come back home and do that same thing that you're doing out there. Come back home and do. You got 40%. It's still, like Jesse said, still remember you from when I was in Augusta. They still can't believe it. They still see me as Little Steve. They still see me as Little Steve back at that time. But then even here, like, you know, Dominique talked about just not being able to we're servants. We wanna serve and just not getting to the point where we just don't feel like we've done enough. Like, what more can we do? And now that I've moved out of my role as a principal, where I had a lot of direct impact, and then moved to a principal supervisor, it's still just something on the inside that says, man, how can you go back and give back more? There's still people that need more. I had more of an impact there, but in this current role, I can't place my hand on as many young men and be a father figure to the young men and to the young women that are in the schools like we need to. And so there's just a hunger to get out and just to figure out what's next.
Gotcha. Jordan.
Well, I'm from Chicago, so I don't go back home. It's dangerous. I'm just gonna put that out there right now. I don't go back to the hood. I'm supposed to go back in July to go for my fiance wants to go. Show me where you grew up. I said, baby, you don't want to see where I grew up. You may think differently of me.
That was like, oh,
Yeah, I don't go home. No,
he
seriously.
was a little dirt.
Yeah, but honestly, what Jesse said and also what Dominique said really is really kind of hit me, because when I think of it, I know it when not that you guys know me, but I was of course athlete and all that type of stuff back at home. Everybody knew I was a man type of stuff, and that was great because I didn't have the ego where it's like, oh, you have to know who I was. But what's awesome is that now growing older and being around men like this and being around the men that I've been through in my life, I realized that I less care of the value that they see in me. I more care about the value that God sees in how I am and who I am. Because going back home and someone remembers, oh, that's Toy. That's great. But guess what? Toy still hasn't learned how to apologize quick, like John was talking about earlier. Toy still hasn't learned how to love correctly. That I'm not going to get that from the value that you see in me, like Jesse was talking about. I only get that from me putting in work to be that. So I don't mind exposing myself as, yeah, I'm not who you think I used to be back then. I'm totally different. I'm still learning. Matter of fact, I'm on the same level or lower than you trying to learn how to walk the right path and have God see value in me.
Good.
And that's the thing about me when I go home. Of course, people are like, oh, me live in Atlanta now. You got this going on. We see your house. We see you work out. Yes, all that stuff is very much what you can see. What you don't see is when I'm at home at night, probably praying,
Right.
asking for forgiveness. What you're not going to see is when I'm dealing with an argument with my fiance and I'm like, it's over with. And God look at me like, whatever. And then next thing you know, we tighter than we ever been before. See, I'm still learning. And I mentioned this before. We're always evolving as men. So the value that when I go back home and how people see me, that's great. But it's all about how God's going to see me. That's what really matters to me. And when God sees me the right way, everything else will be fine. Everything else will be great. Everyone else who is inspired by me, everyone else who sees me, like Julio was saying, people look at me and they'll be inspired in the fact that I can speak truth to how God has changed me from what you might have thought was already a quote unquote perfect person. You know, none of us are. So that's why I see the value. I want God to see the value in me.
Good stuff. I asked that last question because I want the young men and even the young ladies out there. When God plants something in your heart, you have to move on and just do it. You can't be worried about what everyone else is saying. You just have to move on it. And people they'll reaffirm. Because there'll be somebody you won't even know that'll tell you, you're doing what you're doing. I see you.
Yeah.
So man, keep doing it, man. It's the Beyond the Cave podcast. We're talking about boys and men, reconciliation, man. And so these gentlemen just shared, man. And so we hope that we've been able to help someone. Stay tuned. We're coming to you with another episode.